Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Larry Marks. I'm the Chief Administrative Judge of the courts, and it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to the 2017 State of Our Judiciary, taking place, obviously, this year in the great Bronx County. But the first order of business, and I would ask everyone to please stand again, is the presentation of the colors by the New York State Court's ceremonial unit.
Detail. What up? Detail. Go. Ready? Base.
Okay, I would now ask Chief Michael Magliano, who heads the Court Systems Department of Public Safety, to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Detail. Reset. On.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as Court Officer Leticia Crespo leads us in the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order. On.
Now, Monsignor David Casado, pastor of St. Athanasius Church in Brooklyn, will provide the invocation.
Let us remind ourselves that we are in God's presence. Let us pray. We read in the book of the prophet Hosea, maintain love, maintain justice, and wait for your God always. Oh God, today we come together in this great state of New York to share our state of the judiciary. Be with us, oh God, as we gather here today. Fill us all with the gift of wisdom as we turn to you in our needs. Oh God, help us always to work for the good of our communities and enable justice for all your people. Continue to watch over, bless, and protect our Chief Judge, Janet DiFiore, and all the judges of this Empire State. Fill us today with your peace and love. Send us forth with your blessings as we continue to do your work. We ask this as always for your Lord, today and forever. Amen.
Half step. March.
So at this time, I'd like to introduce some of the very distinguished people who are with us here today. Starting with up here on the bench, we have the presiding justices of our 4 appellate division departments. On my far left is Presiding Justice Peter Tom of the First Department. And next to him is Presiding Justice Randall Eng of the Second Department. And to the right is Presiding Justice Karen Peters of the Third Department. And to her right is Presiding Justice Gerald Whalen of the Fourth Department. And the 4 presiding justices, along with the chief judge, make up the administrative board of the courts. Next, I'd like to recognize the associate judges of the Court of Appeals, starting with Judge Jenny Rivera and Judge Sheila Abdus Salam, Judge Leslie Stein, Judge Eugene Fahey, Judge Michael Garcia, and the court's newest member, just confirmed earlier this month, Judge Rowan Wilson. So, congratulations, Judge Wilson. We are also extremely fortunate to have with us today our former Chief Judge, Jonathan Lippman. Along with Judge Lippman are 2 former judges of the Court of Appeals, Judge Carmen Siparik and Judge Eugene Piggott. We are also joined by 2 former chief administrative judges, Leo Malonis and Gail Prudenti, who will be here. And also, I want to mention former appellate division presiding justice Betty Ellerin. And we are very pleased that with us today is our state's outstanding Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman. Also here is our equally outstanding State Comptroller, Tom DiNapoli. And representing the Governor's Office is the Counsel to the Governor, Alfonso David. And also, I see Larry Schwartz is here, former Secretary to the Governor. And I want to mention Barbara Underwood, the State's Solicitor General. From the legislature, we're expecting Andrea Stewart Cousins, the Senate Democratic Conference leader. There she is. And Senator Jeff Klein, the Independent Democratic Conference leader, who is also expected. On the Assembly side, Helene Weinstein, Chair of the Judiciary Committee in the Assembly. And Joe Lentil will be here, Chair of the Assembly Codes Committee. And we are also joined by a number of other state legislators as well as a number of local legislators. And we are, of course, also joined by the state court system's administrative and supervising judges, as well as a large number of current and former state appellate and trial judges. And many of our state's district attorneys are with us today from counties across the state. I'd also like to recognize the current president of the New York State Bar Association, Claire Gudekunst. There she is. And I think I saw the New York City Bar Association president, John Kiernan. As well as all of the other bar leaders present today. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge the state's law school deans, a number of whom are here with us today. So now it is my distinct privilege to introduce our Chief Judge. Janet DiFiore took over as Chief Judge as the head of New York's third branch of state government a little over 1 year ago. And in that relatively short period of time, she's earned the great admiration and the wide affection of all of us in the court system, judges and non-judicial staff alike. From her very first day, she has steadfastly dedicated herself. Indeed, she has dedicated the entire court system to improving the delivery of justice for the citizens of our state. Please join me now in welcoming Judge DiFiore, who will speak to us on the state of our judiciary.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Bronx Hall of Justice and the 2017 State of Our Judiciary. Thank you all for being here. Today, I am pleased to report to you that our judiciary is sound, that our trial and appellate judges are working hard, that we are adopting better management systems, and that we have improved our performance and the provision of justice services to the people of the state of New York over this past year. However, I assure you that we remain acutely aware that there is much about our court system that needs to improve further, and that we are working diligently to bring those needed improvements to every level of our system. Last month, I completed my first full year as Chief Judge. It has been an exciting and satisfying year working with my 6 colleagues at the Court of Appeals to decide cases of statewide importance and serving as the chief executive of one of the largest, busiest, and most complex court systems in the world. Over 3.5 million cases are filed in the New York courts every year, cases that affect just about every aspect of our lives and our communities. In recognition of the profound ways in which our justice system impacts the health, safety, and well-being of every New Yorker, I have renamed what had been called the state of the judiciary, the state of our judiciary, a change that I believe reflects the solemn reality that our judicial system belongs to the people of the state of New York, and that those of us who are privileged to serve as judges and non-judicial employees are but the temporary stewards of something that is far larger than any collection of individuals and which ultimately belongs to all New Yorkers, to the litigants who appear in our courts, the defendants who stand accused of crimes, and the victims who are called to testify. It belongs to every person who serves on a grand jury or as a trial juror, to every one of our partners in government who provide us with the support and resources we need to administer justice, and it belongs to every person, business, and entity that relies on our courts to uphold the rule of law. It is in recognition of this principle that as the Chief Judge of the State of New York, I present to you today this report on our judiciary. When I was formally inducted into office on February 8th of last year, I announced the Excellence Initiative for the New York State Courts, my top priority as Chief Judge, focused on achieving and maintaining excellence in every facet of court operations, speeding the justice process, eliminating backlogs and delays, and introducing a range of reforms to improve the broader administration of justice and provide New Yorkers with the first-rate services they expect and deserve from the court system. We began our Excellence Initiative with a comprehensive evaluation of court operations in order to identify which of our courts were performing well and which of our courts needed to improve. As our first order of business, Chief Administrative Judge Marks and I convened a meeting of our top court leaders, our administrative judges, at which we began the process of reviewing performance and trends in the trial courts throughout the state. Since that initial meeting in February of 2016, we have met with each administrative judge on a regular basis to discuss strategies to improve case processing times, disposition rates, and trial capacity. At every meeting, administrative judges have reported on their progress and their plans for future improvement. And of course, as you would expect, this is an ongoing process with more to be done and the pace of change to be accelerated. Throughout the process, we have focused with laser precision on performance measures, including the percentage of cases pending beyond standards and goals, our benchmarks for the timely resolution of cases, an important management tool to measure how well we are performing when it comes to providing timely justice throughout the court system. Now, before I begin to highlight the courts and districts that are making noteworthy progress in carrying out the goals of the Excellence Initiative, some of you may be wondering why I departed from our long-standing tradition of delivering the State of the Judiciary in Albany at Court of Appeals Hall. I chose to have the State of our Judiciary here in the Bronx, in the Hall of Justice, because the court system in the Bronx hasn't always kept pace with public expectations. And in fact, the Bronx has been an epicenter for many of the worst delays and backlogs plaguing our justice system. During my first year as Chief Judge, the Bronx has been the subject of our intense attention. Our very able administrative judges in Bronx Supreme Court, Douglas McKeon for the civil term and Robert Torres for the criminal term, and their judges and court staff are deeply committed to improving their courts and are well on their way to turning things around and fulfilling our pledge to the people we serve. Those of you who are seated in the center and the rear of this room can look up and see the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. written on the sculpture that's hanging from the ceiling. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Those words indeed convey a stirring, hopeful message. Let me assure you that we here in the Bronx and all across the state are committed to always bending our court system and the work that we do on behalf of all New Yorkers toward justice. And here we are today, convened in one of the country's largest and busiest criminal courthouses. In this building, we see firsthand the toll that is taken on everyone when justice is delayed, on crime victims and their families as they wait for justice to be done, on prosecutors and their cases as key witnesses move away, memories fade, and evidence grows stale, on defendants presumed innocent under the law and who must return to court over and over again, or too often sit in jail waiting for their cases to be resolved because they can't make bail or get a prompt trial. We are changing this dynamic, and in highlighting the progress we've made, I want to start with the Bronx County branch of the New York City Criminal Court, the court that hears our misdemeanor cases right here in this building. In cooperation with our criminal justice partners here in the Bronx, we have moved aggressively to limit adjournments, manage cases more efficiently, and expand our trial capacity. Judge George Grasso, our supervising judge of the Bronx Criminal Court, appointed just this past June, has implemented a system under which the judges presiding in calendar parts are now managing their schedules to be available to conduct trials every Friday. When parties know that the system is cleared for trial capacity and that trials actually will go forward, they are incentivized and indeed required to prepare their cases and arrive ready for trial, or prepared to seriously negotiate a disposition. Our new Trial Fridays program has been an enormous success and has greatly increased the disposition rate in Bronx County. Thanks to the leadership demonstrated by Judge Grasso and the hard work of our Bronx trial judges and their staff, the oldest misdemeanor cases in this county have been reduced by 50% since last June, and the total number of pending misdemeanors has been reduced over the same period by 32%. Absolutely remarkable progress, which we fully expect to continue. Thank you. But make no mistake, we are not dancing in the end zone just yet. We have a long way to go to eliminate what is still an enormous backlog, but we're off to a great start, and the progress that has been achieved to date has been hard-earned and deserves to be recognized. So thank you to Judge Grasso and the trial judges and non-judicial staff in Bronx Criminal Court for leading the way. Thank you to District Attorney Darcel Clark and her staff, and to all of our justice partners here in the Bronx, including the Bronx Bar. We could not do this without you. Another hand for our partners. And I am pleased to report that we are exporting our successful Bronx approach to the rest of the New York City Criminal Court. And we are seeing improvements in other parts of the city as well. Most notably, a 58% decrease over the past year in the oldest misdemeanor cases in the Manhattan Criminal Court. Thank you, Supervising Judge Tamika Amaker and the trial judges and court staff in Manhattan for your excellent response and service. Thank you. The summons part of the New York City Criminal Court is the court in which hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers appear every year for a wide range of lower-level public safety and quality of life offenses. This past December, in close cooperation with the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, led by Director Elizabeth Glazer, and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services and Commissioner Lisette Camillo, the summons part was moved from its old Civic Center site in Lower Manhattan to a newly renovated, user-friendly location in the landmark municipal building near City Hall. The new space was designed to accomplish many efficiencies, including a central computerized clearinghouse for the 330,000 summonses that are issued and processed every year in this court. In cooperation with the city, we have modernized and upgraded the summons court to make it more convenient to the public. We now provide comprehensible information and use text messaging services to encourage timely appearances by defendants, because when a defendant fails to appear on one of these cases, it can and often does result in the issuance of an arrest warrant, causing major disruption to the defendants and their families, and of course, it also contributes to the overcrowding of our jails. Our new facility, coupled with our new technology and user-friendly procedures, is certain to produce better, more efficient outcomes in the hundreds of thousands of cases we process every year in our summons court. With regard to our more serious criminal matters, we have worked across the state to put in place processes to move felony cases through the criminal justice system more efficiently. Again, justice delayed harms everyone: victims, defendants, and their families. Turning first to the courts outside New York City, Suffolk County is leading the way statewide. Administrative Judge Randy Hinrichs has done an absolutely remarkable job out east. Along with Judge Mark Cohen, the supervising judge of the felony courts, Judge Hinrichs has reorganized the case management process, creating a trial assignment part to handle the most difficult to resolve cases. Their proactive approach to managing the case flow process has enabled Suffolk to reduce the number of felony cases pending over standards and goals by a remarkable 58% over this past year. As Judge Hinrichs tells us, their success in Suffolk would not have been possible without the cooperation of the district attorney, the defense bar, and of course, and most important, the hard work and support of their trial judges and court staff. The Suffolk approach has been adopted by other felony courts around the state, including neighboring Nassau County, where the number of older cases was unacceptably high and is now on a sustained downward trend. Whether it's the Suffolk approach or other local strategies that make sense elsewhere, many courts outside of New York City are making significant gains. The 9th Judicial District, under the leadership of Administrative Judge Alan Shankman, assisted by Supervising Judge Barry Warrett, has made impressive reductions in their pending felony caseloads, with some counties within the 9th, like Westchester, approaching 0 cases pending over standards and goals. And back in New York City, while the number of older cases on our felony dockets, particularly in Bronx, Queens, and Richmond counties, is starting to go down, we certainly have a long way to go to achieve overall excellence and efficiency. However, we've taken a number of important steps toward that goal, and I am confident we will get there. In Brooklyn, we've overhauled how the courts process felony cases, and we are now working closely and collaboratively with the New York City Department of Correction to improve prisoners' transportation to produce defendants in a timely fashion, a problem that has consistently been an impediment to efficiency. In New York County, we are also restructuring the way felony cases are processed, and in the Bronx, where one court part had a backlog of over 750 felony drug cases, we started a special program last summer to attack these aging cases, and 6 months later, the inventory in that part is down by nearly 40%. An excellent, excellent start. Now, smart leaders know and understand that leveraging available resources and tools is key to achieving success. And a good deal of our early progress has come as the result of leveraging technology. Led by our amazing tech operation and Chip Mount, the Director of Court Research and Technology for us, we've created a powerful new case management tool called the Dashboard. The Dashboard enables judges and non-judicial staff to review every detail of every court's caseload. The Dashboard gives judges and administrators the ability to actively manage and control their dockets. As the maxim goes, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. We are now measuring, and we are actively managing. In the 7th Judicial District, which includes the city of Rochester and 8 counties in western New York, Administrative Judge Craig Doran is measuring and managing. He is using the Dashboard to identify felony cases that are not moving through the system efficiently, and he is flagging those cases and promptly transferring them to a trial assignment part for calendar call. Technology-enhanced case management, combined with the adoption of new procedures, has led to increased dispositions and trials in the 7th, with felony cases pending over standards and goals declining by 63% since the start of 2016. Thank you, Judge Doran and the 7th District trial judges and staff who have dedicated and committed themselves to excellence. Thank you very much. Now, on the civil side of our house, nearly 1.5 million cases are filed in these courts every year. Personal injury, foreclosure, complex commercial matters, matrimonials, breach of contract, consumer credit, landlord-tenant, probate, guardianship, and on and on and on. Court congestion and delay adds to the already high cost of litigation and disrupts the personal and professional lives of litigants, their businesses, and their families. Litigation can be so costly and time-consuming that plaintiffs with meritorious claims at times feel compelled to accept lower settlements just to end the personal and financial burdens of litigation. In the commercial sector, we know that delay in resolving disputes creates uncertainty in the marketplace and adds to the expense of doing business in New York, creating a less than optimal climate for economic growth and job creation. We are working on many fronts to speed the civil justice process, increase dispositions, and enhance public access. In Nassau County Supreme Court, for example, Administrative Judge Tom Adams has used the dashboard and other techniques to dramatically reduce the number of foreclosures over standards and goals by 58%. Kings County Supreme Court, led by Administrative Judge Lawrence Nipel, has reduced the number of our oldest pending cases by 25% and increased the number of foreclosures resolved by 62%. And up in the 4th Judicial District, which stretches from Schenectady all the way to the Canadian border, Administrative Judge Vito Caruso has cut the number of the oldest pending civil cases by 63% over the past year. How? By focusing, by managing, and through plain old-fashioned hard work on the part of his judges and court staff. At the same time that we are more actively moving toward using technology to improve our performance, we are re-examining the way in which we use and assign our non-judicial resources as a unified, statewide court system, deploying those resources more creatively and flexibly to make certain that courts everywhere are staying current. In Suffolk County, which was hit hard by New York's residential mortgage foreclosure crisis, Judge Michael Kokoma, our Deputy Chief Administrative Judge for the courts outside New York City, designed a plan in which 80 volunteer court attorneys from upstate New York were recruited to work on the large backlog of summary judgment motions in foreclosure cases. These court attorneys organized, got to work, and drafted hundreds of decisions for review and ultimate disposition by our Suffolk County judges. Again, statewide use of statewide resources, a positive formula for our success. And borrowing from this experience in New York City, we now have at the ready a special team of court attorneys that can be mobilized on short notice for the express purpose of responding to backlogs in motions and other delays in Supreme Court civil term throughout the 5 boroughs. In a similar move last summer, prompted by our Excellence Initiative outreach efforts, a private attorney called to describe the negative impact on his client caused by the delayed entry of a judgment in New York County. In following up on the lawyer's complaint, there was indeed a backlog in the entry of judgments in the county clerk's office. We moved expeditiously to tackle the problem, working in partnership with County Clerk Milton Tingling and making citywide use of citywide resources. We deployed a 5-week plan to clear the backlog by deploying staff from neighboring county clerk offices and reassigning the existing staff. The backlog was cleared ahead of schedule, and the wait time between submission and entry of judgment was slashed from 3 months to less than 2 weeks for non-emergency cases, all redounding to the benefit of the litigants and lawyers who rightly expect to have their matters promptly and efficiently resolved. We are determined to achieve excellence as a statewide court system. Geographical boundaries and artificial practices that no longer make sense will not get in the way of decisions regarding the assignment of personnel and resources that are in the best interest of our court system as a whole. Putting our resources to their highest and best use is a top priority of this administration. We will also continue to take advantage of the lessons to be learned from our most successful courts. The Commercial Division of the Supreme Court, our internationally respected forum for the resolution of business disputes, has become a laboratory for reforms to streamline litigation, improve efficiency, and reduce litigation costs. We are evaluating the impact of recent reforms implemented by the Administrative Board of the Courts at the suggestion of the Commercial Division Advisory Council, chaired so ably by Robert Haig of Kelly Dry and Warren, to determine which of these reforms can be exported to our non-commercial parts to improve the quality and efficiency of litigation throughout the civil justice system. I want to thank Bob for his continued service, interest, and leadership. Thank you, Bob. E-filing is another piece of the Excellence Initiative, with over 1.3 million cases filed in our Supreme and Surrogates courts across the state. We are steadily expanding e-filing to additional courts and case types, and indeed, we are launching a pilot program in the appellate division later this year, and we are working toward implementing e-filing in our criminal and family courts as well. And to be sure, while the benefits of e-filing are indeed about convenience and cost savings, e-filing also presents opportunities for us to make creative use of technology to improve the immediate impact of our justice services. For example, our recently launched Remote Access Order of Protection program, the first statewide program of its kind in the nation, operates to enhance the safety of our most vulnerable litigants by affording domestic violence victims the ability to obtain emergency orders of protection from the safety of remote locations like shelters and hospitals through e-filing and Skype video conferencing with the court, a new and innovative use of available technology. In family court, a place where we simply cannot afford delays and inefficiencies for all of the obvious reasons, I am pleased to report that over the past year, we have seen a 23% reduction in cases over 6 months old in the New York City Family Court. Under the leadership of Administrative Judge Jeanette Ruiz, the timely disposition of cases in New York City has been prioritized and best practices have been implemented. And we are fast-tracking cases involving removal of children from unsafe environments, conducting more continuous trials and hearings, and ensuring that time-certain scheduling is used for all case types in order to reduce waiting and inconvenience. These case management and calendar techniques are designed to minimize adjournments and delays and to ensure that every scheduled court appearance is meaningful. Kudos to Judge Ruiz and the hardworking judge and non-judicial staff in this very important court. Where are you, Judge? The pursuit of excellence in our courts includes the housing part of the New York City Civil Court, our busiest court, which hears nearly 3,000 matters a day. With massive dockets, limited resources, and tenants who are overwhelmingly unrepresented by counsel, the litigation experience in this court is often characterized by long waits, non-meaningful appearances, and a great deal of frustration and confusion. Because the residents of New York City deserve better, I am appointing a special commission on the future of the New York City Housing Court, co-chaired by Peter Tom, acting presiding justice of the Appellate Division First Department, and Supreme Court Justice Joan Lobis, both of whom were housing court judges themselves, to create by year's end a blueprint for the housing court's future, one that balances efficiency with a commitment to just results that are achieved in an orderly, comprehensible fashion. The importance of having such a blueprint for the court's future is only underscored by New York City's historic announcement just a few days ago of its plan to ensure that all low-income tenants facing eviction have access to legal services by the year 2022. This new development, coupled with the support we already receive through our state funding, is sure to advance the quality of justice in this important court. Throughout the state of New York, there are close to 1,300 town and village courts, served by 2,200 justices who are assigned to handle close to 2 million cases every year. These are the courts where residents outside of the cities are most likely to find themselves should they have an interaction with the justice system. The town and village courts handle everything from a traffic infraction and a small claims case to a landlord-tenant matter. And on the criminal side, misdemeanor cases and felony arraignments. These courts are locally funded and they are operated by the local municipalities. However, they are a part of the unified state court system, and we are committed to providing the crucial support and supervision necessary to run an excellent local court system. We have demonstrated our commitment to the local courts by providing training, through the planned purchase of an automated case management system to improve operations and information sharing, and through funding for security, automation, and equipment upgrades. Our local justice system will be more efficient and litigant-friendly as we move forward. Now, access to justice has always been and continues to be a top priority for us. And over the last several years, under the leadership of my predecessor, Jonathan Lippman, who is with us today, and with the guidance of our Permanent Commission on Access to Justice, chaired by Helene Barnett, New York has become a national leader in expanding access to civil legal services through increased funding, lawyer pro bono, and thoughtful and innovative new strategies and programming. We have estimated that the $100 million that is now provided for in our judiciary budget to support civil legal services yields a return to the state of almost $1 billion annually, $10 for every dollar we invest. With the implementation of the Excellence Initiative, we have strengthened our commitment to the provision of civil legal services to the poor. We know that the value of our investment is greatly diminished if we cannot and we do not move cases through our courts with appropriate speed and efficiency. Our efforts to promote timely justice through the Excellence Initiative will enable us to get the most value for every taxpayer dollar that New York State invests in these services, and for every hour of pro bono that the bar so generously donates to make our justice system more accessible. I again want to thank Governor Cuomo and the state legislature for recognizing the essential need for civil legal services funding and the sound investment it represents, and the bar, of course, for honoring its professional obligation to serve. Ultimately, I know, thank you to the governor and to the legislature. Ultimately, I know that you recognize that the focus of the Excellence Initiative is broader than issues of court operations and case management. It's about providing a sound foundation for excellence in judicial decision-making and the provision of justice services. It's about supporting the ability of our judges to deliver high-quality justice. That means for all of us, constantly re-examining how business is being done in our courts and how well we are interacting with and serving every one of our different and many constituencies. For me, it means the sustained pursuit of excellence, working every day to find better ways to serve the justice needs of our communities. And I want to thank those of you who have given us your comments and your suggestions, many of which have resulted in changes that we've made. And we encourage all of you, lawyers, litigants, members of the observing public, to continue to offer your ideas for improvement. We review every comment you take the time and effort to offer, and we appreciate you sharing your views with us, so thank you all for that. Earlier this month, as part of his State of the State address, Governor Cuomo announced a 6-point criminal justice reform plan. As head of the judicial branch of government, I could not be more encouraged or pleased with the governor's announcement. We support the plan, and we look forward to working with him, with Majority Leader Flanagan, Speaker Hasty, and the entire legislature to move forward on smart, common sense reforms that will make our criminal justice system fairer, more efficient, and more effective. That means reforming our broken bail system enacting legislation to eliminate wrongful convictions by strengthening identification procedures and implementing electronic recording of custodial interrogations, raising the age of criminal responsibility, exploring speedy trial reforms, and continuing our ongoing efforts to strengthen and expand indigent criminal defense. We look forward to a productive, collaborative effort in these areas of mutual concern and commitment. Now, for the appellate practitioners among us, you know well that New York does not have a uniform set of rules for appellate practice. Practitioners must look to 3 different articles of the CPLR and to a different set of court rules and procedures for each of the 4 departments of the appellate division. This is confusing and unnecessary, and it needs to be fixed. Our presiding justices of the appellate division have formed a working group of clerks and staffs to develop a uniform set of rules that we will release for public comment by this fall. Harmonizing appellate practice is an important step in our pursuit of excellence. It will save attorneys time, save clients money, and undoubtedly it will lead to fewer errors and rejections of non-complying papers. And for our practicing trial lawyers and judges, New York is one of the very few states that does not have a statutory code of evidence. Our law of evidence is scattered throughout thousands of judicial decisions, statutory provisions, and court rules. For judges and lawyers, this is both frustrating and inefficient. This past July, I established an advisory committee on evidence to create a single, definitive compilation of New York's law of evidence, creating an accessible, easy-to-use guide for judges and lawyers will save research time, promote uniformity in applying the law, avoid erroneous rulings, and improve the quality of legal proceedings. Co-chairing this group of highly respected sitting and retired judges are former Court of Appeals Judge Susan Reed and Nassau County Supreme Court Justice William Danino, with Albany Law Professor Michael Hutter serving as counsel. The committee will publish the compilation in discrete sections, and the first publication is anticipated by the end of this year. I think you will all agree that legal practitioners and judges will benefit greatly from having a definitive treatise on New York's rules of evidence. Thank you, Judges Reed and Danino and the members of the committee for taking on this project. Looking forward, on Election Day this year, New Yorkers will have a historic opportunity to vote on whether or not to have a convention to potentially amend our state constitution in 2019. In the event of a yes vote, we must be prepared to participate as it affects the courts. Toward that end, I have assembled a task force of leading judges, attorneys, and constitutional scholars to review Article 6 of the state constitution, which, as you know, establishes the structure, organization, and jurisdiction of the judiciary. The task force will ensure that the judiciary is fully prepared to participate actively in any and all discussions that could lead to making our courts more efficient, accessible, and responsive to the public's needs and expectations. The task force is being led by Justice Alan Shankman, Administrative Judge of the 9th Judicial District, and Attorney Dennis Glazer, a former Davis Polk lawyer and someone I happen to know quite well. We will await the vote and we will be prepared. In 2009, then Chief Judge Lippman created the first of its kind Justice Task Force to focus on identifying and eliminating the principal causes of wrongful convictions through systemic criminal justice reform. Now co-chaired by former Court of Appeals Judge Carmen Siparik and Judge Mark Dwyer, and comprised of experienced judges, reform advocates, lawmakers, and representatives of our state's criminal justice system, and supported by the outstanding and most generous pro bono efforts of Davis Polk and Wardwell, the task force's recommendations have generated important reforms in New York State. including expansion of the DNA data bank and greater access to post-conviction DNA testing by criminal defendants, as well as best practices around electronic recording of custodial interrogations and procedural safeguards for lineups and photo identifications. I am so pleased that these and other potential reforms are presently receiving the close attention of the legislative and executive branches, along with early and expanded discovery, improved forensic practices, and the recent groundbreaking recommendation of the Justice Task Force that New York State trial judges issue standing Brady orders at the outset of a criminal action, addressing the prosecutor's duty to disclose favorable defense information pursuant to his or her constitutional and ethical obligations. Having seen firsthand how effective the task force has been in prompting change, and having the highest respect for the abilities and the motives of its members, I am expanding the original mission of the Justice Task Force to address broader issues of concern for a fair and effective criminal justice system, such as the impact of protracted delays on the disposition of cases, a review of ethical requirements and disciplinary measures for attorney conduct, and systemic problems in affording all New Yorkers due process. We look forward to the task force's expanded reach and to lifting future recommendations into law and practice. Judges Saparik and Dwyer, you two certainly have your work cut out for you this year. So over this past year, we have indeed undertaken as our top priority the strengthening of our organizational culture and the drive for excellence at every level of our system. And we are supporting that undertaking. We are supporting it with our commitment to our judges and non-judicial staff to provide them with the support, the training, and the tools they need to perform and succeed in this environment. Since last July, we've held a series of leadership training sessions conducted by recognized judicial leadership experts from the National Center for State Courts, led by Mary McQueen, who is here with us today. Thank you, Mary, for being here, and the Harvard Executive Program for State Court Leaders. Our administrative and supervising judges, and very soon our top non-judicial managers from around the state, will have attended these training sessions. We want every leader to be given the opportunity to take their leadership skills to the next level and to be best positioned to inspire their colleagues and staff to honor the mission and satisfy the goals of our Excellence Initiative. And because we know and recognize that central to achieving operational and decisional excellence throughout our courts is the proper training and education of our frontline judges and staff, I want to thank Judge Juanita Bing Newton, Dean of the New York State Judicial Institute, who has worked so hard over this past year to ensure that the philosophy and objectives of the Excellence Initiative are integrated into every educational training program we present. And to this end, we are reintroducing the summer judicial seminars this year in order to give our frontline judges the kind of in-depth, skills-based training they need to help them manage their daily caseloads and address their operational challenges. Thank you, Dean, Judge Bing. As you know, in New York, the position of Chief Judge is really two jobs rolled into one: serving as the Chief Judge of the state of New York and as Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals. And indeed, it is an immense privilege to lead our state's highest court. And so before I conclude today, I do want to recognize my colleagues on the Court of Appeals who I have come to admire, respect, and enjoy so very much. As I call your name, I'd like you to stand, face the crowd, and remain standing, starting with Senior Associate Judge Jenny Rivera, Judges Sheila Abdus-Salam, Leslie Stein, Eugene Fahey, come on, Michael Garcia, and Rowan Wilson. I am honored to work with each one of you. Thank you for your magnificent service to the people of the state of New York. Our Chief Administrative Judge, Larry Marks, my valued partner in all of our court administration initiatives, I could not ask for a better, smarter, or more thoughtful partner. Thank you, Judge Marks. And thanks to his excellent deputies, Judges Fern Fisher and Michael Kokoma, the presiding justices of the Appellate Division, Peter Tom, Randall Eng, Karen Peters, and Gerald Whalen. Our many superb administrative and supervising judges throughout the state, all of whom have doubled down over this past year and led the progress we have achieved in their respective jurisdictions. Thank you all. Unfortunately, time doesn't permit me to give all of them a special mention today, but I urge you to look through the report we've issued today. You can find it online to see the kind of broad progress that the courts have made across the state under their leadership. No chief judge could have a better leadership team or one more dedicated to achieving excellence in the delivery of justice. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all for your energy, your effort, and your focus this year. Thank you very much. Equally rewarding for me has been the opportunity to work alongside our outstanding trial and appellate judges, the men and women who bear the brunt of our load, along with the non-judicial staff who support our judges, all so critical to achieving and maintaining excellence in our courts. Thank you to all of you. And last, but certainly not least, of course, our uniformed court officers, the public face of our court system, the men and women who risk their lives every day to protect us and provide safety and security to our judges and staff, and the many, literally thousands of people who come through our 350 courthouse doors throughout the state every day. We are so very proud of the work that is being done throughout our unified court system at every level, on the bench, in the courtrooms, in the back offices, and on the front lines. You are the reasons why all New Yorkers can feel good about the state of our judiciary and be confident about the future of our justice system. Finally, I want to leave you with a story. Not long ago, I was visiting in the Manhattan Criminal Court at 100 Center Street, one of the state's, as you know, busiest courthouses. And I noticed when I walked in the beautiful four-sided old clock that was hanging in the lobby. What I also noticed was that each of the four sides of the clock was telling a different time, and of course, none of them was accurate. So I asked, how long had it been that way? No one could give me an answer, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years. Well, I'm glad to report that with the help of the city, the clock has been repaired, and it is again telling time, and it is functioning as it was intended to function. Not a big deal? Actually, it is a big deal. It exemplifies the way we view our work and our missions as stewards of justice. We want to do all things, the big things and the little things, to the best of our ability. Excellence in everything we do, at every level, and in every courthouse is our goal. We appreciate that imperfection is inevitable, but settling for imperfection is not. We don't accept delays and deficiencies in the courts as inevitable, not in the Bronx or Manhattan, not in Erie, Suffolk, or Monroe counties, or any other part of the state. When it comes to honoring our constitutional mandate and satisfying our core obligation to provide fair, timely, and affordable justice to the people we serve, our first responsibility is to fix what's broken and get things right. We have no illusions about the challenges or the difficulty ahead, and we know that not every problem can be solved with a phone call to the city. But we do know that persistent, creative leadership at every level will affect positive change and give the hard-working men and women in our system a clear direction and set of goals to assist and support them in moving in the right direction. Like the broken clock, we will continue to identify all those things in our system that aren't working, and we will work to repair and restore them until we get it right. That is our pledge to you from all of us. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Judge. That concludes our program today.